You are lying still as the idea of morning slowly arrives, even if your room remains dark. In your mind, a soft light drifts downward, finding a single leaf somewhere outside. It does not strike or shine. It rests. The way your breath rests when you stop trying to control it. This is where photosynthesis begins, not with effort, but with arrival. You imagine the leaf waiting, though it has never learned impatience. Its surface is wide and thin, shaped by countless quiet mornings like this one. When light touches it, nothing dramatic happens. No sound announces the moment. Instead, a subtle shift begins inside, a turning toward possibility. You sense how life often starts this way, with a small yes. Inside the leaf, cells hold themselves like tiny rooms filled with green-tinted glass. These are chloroplasts, though you do not need to remember the name yet. You only need to feel their purpose. They are places where light is welcomed, not consumed, where energy is invited to stay a while. As you breathe in, oxygen will eventually meet you from this process, though the leaf does not know your name. The light arriving now has traveled a long way. It leaves the surface of the sun 8 minutes ago, crossing space without hurry. It carries no awareness of its destination. Still, it arrives precisely where it is needed. You feel comfort in this thought. Not everything that sustains you must know you exist. As the light settles, it begins to loosen something inside the leaf. Energy stirs, the way warmth moves through your hands when you cup them together. The leaf does not burn. It does not glow. It simply absorbs what it can, letting the rest pass through or reflect away. Even here, there is restraint. Nature does not take more than it needs. You begin to notice that photosynthesis is not a single action. It is a conversation. Light speaks first, gently. The leaf listens. Water, drawn slowly up from the soil, waits its turn to respond. Air lingers nearby, holding carbon dioxide like a quiet offering. None of these elements rush. Timing matters more than speed. You imagine water rising through the stem, lifted by forces so subtle they feel like patience made physical. Each molecule follows another, guided by attraction and release. When it reaches the leaf, it joins the light in careful cooperation. You sense how collaboration, even at the smallest scale, creates stability. Carbon dioxide arrives differently. It drifts in through tiny openings in the leaf, like windows left slightly open for fresh air. There is no gatekeeper, only balance. Too much air would dry the leaf. Too little would starve it. So the leaf adjusts, moment by moment, without thought or tension. All of this is happening now, as you rest. While your body grows heavier, leaves across the world are performing this quiet work. They are turning light, water, and air into sugar and oxygen. This sugar is not sweetness for pleasure. It is structure. It is fuel. It is stored sunlight, folded gently into matter. You begin to understand that photosynthesis is not only about plants. It is about connection. The oxygen you breathe tonight begins its story in green places. The food that built your muscles once held the shape of a leaf. Even your thoughts are powered by energy that once arrived as light. The leaf does not know it is generous. It does not act with intention or kindness. And yet, generosity emerges. This is how systems larger than any one being create comfort. By following simple rules, repeated endlessly, they support lives they will never meet. As you linger with this image, your breathing slows. You imagine each inhale as a thread linking you to forests, fields, and quiet gardens. Each exhale returns carbon dioxide, not as waste, but as a gift waiting to be reused. The exchange feels fair, balanced, ongoing. You notice how little noise this process makes. No alarms. No flashing signals. Life sustains itself in near silence. Perhaps this is why it pairs so well with sleep. Photosynthesis does not demand your attention. It continues whether you watch or not. You allow yourself to drift closer to the leaf, not as an observer, but as a participant. Your body is part of this cycle. Your rest supports tomorrow's movement, just as the leaf's stillness supports tomorrow's growth. Nothing is separate here. You rest with this knowledge, letting it settle the way dusk settles into trees. The leaf remains, steady and open, neither clinging to the light nor fearing its absence. This teaches you something gentle about trust. The process does not stop when clouds pass or when night arrives. It adapts, slowing, waiting, conserving. There is wisdom in this quiet flexibility. You think of all the mornings that came before this one, stretching back through time. Leaves have been doing this work long before names existed for it. Long before anyone measured wavelengths or drew diagrams. The science came later. The rhythm came first. That rhythm is what you feel now, beneath thought, beneath language. Even the structure of the leaf reflects this calm purpose. Thin enough for light to enter, wide enough to catch it, soft enough to move with wind rather than resist it. You sense how form follows function without strain. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is excessive. Every part participates, simply by being what it is. As your awareness softens, you realize that the light touching the leaf is not a single thing. It is many small packets, arriving one after another, each carrying a precise amount of energy. You do not need to know their name yet. You only need to feel their steadiness, their patience, their willingness to travel so far. The leaf receives these tiny arrivals the way you receive thoughts just before sleep. Some pass through. Some linger. Some settle deeply enough to change you. You sense a gentle anticipation, like a pause before a message arrives, a hush before meaning unfolds, and you remain still, ready to listen, without effort or expectation as night holds you softly and curiosity stays awake nearby. And as this exchange continues, quietly and endlessly, you begin to drift, knowing light itself is moving closer, preparing to tell its story. You begin by letting go of the idea that sunlight is something loud or sharp. Here, it is quiet. It moves without sound, without weight, without urgency. You imagine it leaving the surface of the sun, not in a burst, but in a steady, patient flow. Each small piece of light travels alone, yet never lonely, crossing space the way a thought crosses your mind just before sleep. These pieces of light are not waves crashing. They are messages. Tiny, precise, and complete. Scientists call them photons, but you do not need the name yet. You can feel them instead, as gentle carriers of energy, each holding just enough to be useful, never more than required. They do not hurry. They do not slow. They simply move. You imagine the long journey sunlight takes to reach a leaf. 8 minutes pass in silence as it travels from the sun to earth. No steering. No correction. Just motion guided by the nature of light itself. In that time, you might shift slightly in bed or take a deeper breath. Light continues, indifferent and dependable. When it arrives, it does not announce itself. It does not knock. It meets the atmosphere and softens, scattering, warming, changing direction. Some light reaches oceans. Some meets rooftops. Some finds forests and fields. A small portion drifts downward until it touches green. The leaf does not reach upward to grab the light. It does not strain or stretch. It waits, open and prepared. This is one of the quiet lessons sunlight teaches. Energy does not always belong to the one who chases it. Sometimes it belongs to the one who remains ready. As light touches the leaf, it carries information as much as energy. Its color, its timing, its angle all matter. Blue light speaks differently than red. Morning light is not the same as afternoon light. The plant listens without ears, responding through chemistry instead of thought. You imagine sunlight as a series of soft taps, each one asking the same simple question, "Are you ready?" And the leaf answers not with words, but with absorption. Some light is taken in. Some is reflected away, returning to the world as green. What you see as color is really a decision being made. Inside the leaf, the absorbed light begins its work. Not all at once. Not everywhere. Each photon meets a molecule designed to receive it. Energy is passed along carefully, like a candle flame lighting another candle without ever becoming smaller. Nothing is wasted. Nothing spills. You feel how different this is from the way humans often treat energy. There is no hoarding here. No panic about scarcity. Light arrives freely, and the leaf uses what it can, trusting that more will come when conditions allow. The idea that light behaves as both wave and particle may drift through your mind, but it does not need to settle there. For now, it is enough to know that light can be counted and measured, yet still feel gentle and intangible. Science does not remove wonder. It gives wonder structure. You imagine photons arriving one by one, each delivering a precise packet of energy. Too little would do nothing. Too much could cause harm. So evolution has shaped plants to listen carefully, to pass energy along in steps, reducing risk, increasing harmony. This process happens billions of times across a single leaf, every second. And yet, it feels slow. Not because it lacks speed, but because it lacks drama. Life often works this way. The most important exchanges are the quietest. As you rest with this image, you notice your own relationship with energy. Your body does not absorb all stimulation equally. Some sounds pass through you. Some words linger. Like the leaf, you select without effort, guided by deeper systems that know how much is enough. Sunlight continues to arrive whether it is used or not. Clouds may intervene. Night will come. Still, the sun sends its messages. There is something comforting in that reliability. Light does not worry about being received. It simply offers. Plants have learned to shape themselves around this offering. Leaves angle themselves subtly. Forest canopies shift. Even at the cellular level, structures move in response to light's presence. Not in excitement, but in alignment. You imagine standing inside this process, small and still, watching light move from sky to leaf to molecule. There is no boundary here between physics and biology. Light obeys the same rules everywhere. It behaves consistently, allowing life to depend on it. As sleep approaches, the idea of light as a messenger softens your thoughts. Messages do not demand action. They invite understanding. Light does not force the leaf to change. It provides the possibility, and the leaf responds when it can. You sense how this applies beyond plants. Ideas arrive the same way. Slowly. Repeatedly. Gently. They cannot be forced into usefulness. They wait until the mind is ready to receive them. The leaf remains open, not knowing which photon will arrive next, or when clouds might pass. This openness is not weakness. It is adaptation. It is resilience built on trust rather than control. You let this settle into you as your breathing deepens. Sunlight, you realize, is not urgency. It is consistency. It keeps arriving, message after message, offering energy without expectation, waiting patiently for green listeners to respond. And somewhere between the sun and the leaf, between energy and understanding, you begin to feel the quiet comfort of knowing that even the smallest messages can travel immense distances, arriving exactly when they are needed. You begin to notice the color green not as something you see, but as something that receives. It is not decoration. It is a signal of listening. When you imagine a leaf now, you are no longer focused on its edges or shape, but on its surface, calm and attentive, tuned to the world above it. Green exists because of what it refuses. This feels important. Chlorophyll, the molecule resting quietly inside the leaf, does not take in every kind of light. It chooses. Reds and blues are welcomed. Greens are gently turned away. What you see is not what is used, but what is spared. Even rest has a color. You imagine chlorophyll as a listener sitting in stillness, surrounded by noise, able to focus only on the frequencies that matter. It does not strain. It does not analyze. Its shape alone determines what it can hear. This is chemistry, yes, but it feels like mindfulness made molecular. When light arrives, chlorophyll is ready. Its structure is shaped around a central atom, holding space like a calm center in a crowded room. Energy slips in, not violently, but precisely. One photon arrives, and something inside chlorophyll shifts, just slightly, like a breath taken in. This shift is the beginning of usefulness. The energy does not stay long. Chlorophyll is not a container. It is a doorway. The energy passes through, handed carefully to the next molecule waiting nearby. Nothing is dropped. Nothing is rushed. The transfer feels practiced, ancient, reliable. You begin to sense how selective listening protects the leaf. Too much energy at once would overwhelm it. Too many messages would blur meaning. By filtering light, chlorophyll keeps the process gentle. It ensures that photosynthesis remains steady, not chaotic. This selectivity mirrors something in you. As you rest, you are not absorbing every sound, every thought, every memory. Some drift by. Some are noticed briefly, then released. Only a few are taken in deeply enough to change you. Your mind, like a leaf, knows how to filter. The green you see outside your window, or remember from earlier today, is a sign of restraint. Plants could have evolved to absorb green light too. But they did not. Perhaps because balance mattered more than fullness. Perhaps because evolution favors systems that leave room for error, for rest, for reflection. Chlorophyll molecules sit packed together in careful arrangements, forming networks that guide energy smoothly onward. When one receives energy, it does not keep it. It shares. Energy flows downhill, from one molecule to another, always moving toward usefulness, never circling back in confusion. You imagine this movement as a quiet handoff, like passing a candle flame through a line of waiting hands. Each hand is warmed, briefly illuminated, then returns to stillness. The flame continues, unchanged, moving forward without loss. There are actually different kinds of chlorophyll, each tuned slightly differently. Some listen better to one shade of light, others to another. Together, they widen the range of what the leaf can hear. Diversity strengthens listening. No single molecule carries the burden alone. This cooperation feels gentle. No competition. No hierarchy. Each molecule does what it is shaped to do. Together, they form a listening field, sensitive yet stable. You feel the calm intelligence of this system, built not by planning, but by countless quiet successes repeated over time. The energy that passes through chlorophyll soon reaches a place where it can be stored, transformed, remembered. But chlorophyll itself remains unchanged. It is not consumed. It is reused. This, too, feels important. The listener does not disappear when the message passes through. As sleep pulls you deeper, the idea of green as a language settles in your chest. A language without words. A language of choice. Of boundaries. Of gentle refusal. Chlorophyll teaches that saying no is part of sustaining life. You think of sunlight again, arriving endlessly, generously. Without filters, this generosity could become harm. Chlorophyll stands between abundance and balance, shaping the flow so life can continue quietly. The leaf does not glow with every photon it absorbs. Most of the time, nothing visible happens at all. The work is internal, invisible, trusted. You are reminded that the most meaningful changes often leave no outward trace. As your awareness softens, you imagine shrinking down, resting beside these green listeners, watching energy arrive and move on. There is no tension here. No urgency. Only readiness and response. You realize that chlorophyll does not know the future. It does not anticipate tomorrow's light or worry about yesterday's clouds. It listens only to what arrives now. This presence feels deeply restful. Your breathing aligns with this rhythm. Inhale. Receive. Exhale. Release. Not everything must be kept. Not everything must be used. Some things are simply allowed to pass. The leaf remains open, but not exposed. Its selectivity is its strength. In choosing which light to absorb, it creates the conditions for growth, for storage, for life extending beyond the moment. You feel gratitude for this quiet green intelligence, working without recognition, supporting forests, fields, and your own heartbeat. Chlorophyll does not ask to be seen. It only asks to listen well. As you drift closer to sleep, the color green fades into feeling rather than sight. It becomes a sense of calm discernment, of gentle attention, of knowing what is enough. And as energy continues its journey beyond the listener, you sense it moving toward another meeting, where light, water, and air will begin their slow dance together. You imagine yourself drifting downward now, away from the leaf's surface and into the deeper currents that support it. Light has arrived, chlorophyll has listened, and energy is moving onward. But energy alone is not enough. It needs companions. It waits for matter to arrive, slow and steady, from two very different directions. Below the leaf, far beneath the soil, water begins its quiet ascent. It does not surge or rush. It climbs patiently through tiny spaces, guided by attraction rather than force. Each molecule follows another, linked by subtle bonds, forming a continuous column that stretches from darkness to light. You picture this water as memory traveling upward. It has rested in the ground, touched minerals, moved between grains of soil. Now it rises, not because it is pulled, but because it belongs to a system that makes space for it. The plant does not command the water. It creates conditions where water can move. Roots spread outward like questions asked slowly over time. They explore rather than invade. When they find moisture, they accept it gently, allowing water to slip inside and begin its long journey upward. There is no pump, no engine. Only physics, quietly cooperating with life. As the water moves, it carries more than hydrogen and oxygen. It brings dissolved nutrients, trace elements, small reminders of the earth below. These, too, will matter later, but for now, the water's presence alone is enough. It is a solvent, a transporter, a participant waiting for its cue. You imagine water entering the leaf at last, arriving without celebration. It spreads into the cells, filling spaces, creating pressure that keeps the leaf open and firm. Without water, the leaf would collapse inward, unable to receive light. Support, you realize, is often invisible. At the same time, air is arriving from another direction. Carbon dioxide drifts in from the atmosphere, slipping through tiny openings on the leaf's underside. These openings open and close gently, responding to humidity, light, and need. The leaf breathes, though not the way you do. Carbon dioxide is not treated as waste here. It is a resource, a building block. Each molecule carries a single carbon atom, eager to be placed into something larger. You sense how value depends on context. What one system releases, another receives with gratitude. The meeting place is small, far smaller than you can easily imagine. Inside the leaf, within the chloroplasts, water and carbon dioxide wait near one another, held in careful arrangement. Energy flows between them, nudging bonds, loosening structures, inviting change. This is where photosynthesis becomes a dance. Not a performance, but a coordination. Water molecules are gently split apart, releasing oxygen as a byproduct. This oxygen drifts away, eventually finding its way into the air, and later, into your lungs. The water does not protest. It transforms. Carbon dioxide, meanwhile, is coaxed into new shapes. Its carbon atom is guided into forming sugars, linking with others to create chains that can store energy. This process happens step by step, with enzymes guiding each movement like patient instructors. Nothing here is fast. Every reaction waits for the previous one to finish. If water is scarce, the dance slows. If air is limited, the rhythm changes. Photosynthesis adjusts itself constantly, never demanding perfect conditions. You feel the reassurance in this flexibility. Life does not insist on ideal circumstances. It works with what is available, making careful choices, conserving when needed, expanding when possible. Water and air never collide violently. They meet under guidance, shaped by proteins that have evolved to keep the process safe. Energy is released in small portions, preventing damage. Balance is not an accident. It is maintained, moment by moment. As you rest with this image, you notice how similar this is to your own body. Oxygen enters your lungs. Water moves through your blood. Carbon becomes muscle, bone, thought. You, too, are a meeting place for simple molecules performing complex cooperation. The plant does not know the outcome of this dance. It does not imagine fruit or height or shade. It responds only to the present conditions, trusting that continuation is enough. Growth is a consequence, not a goal. You imagine countless leaves across the planet performing this same choreography, each one slightly different, each one dependent on its own local balance of water and air. Together, they create stability at a global scale, without ever coordinating. The oxygen released floats upward, joining the atmosphere quietly. No one marks its origin. No leaf claims credit. And yet, every breath you take is shaped by these silent contributions. As your breathing deepens, you sense the generosity of this exchange. Plants give oxygen freely, not because they intend to support animals, but because transformation requires release. Life gives by continuing itself. The water, having done its part, may move onward or evaporate, returning to the sky to begin again. Carbon, now woven into sugar, may travel through the plant, becoming root or stem or seed. Nothing remains fixed. Everything circulates. You feel the comfort of this movement. Nothing is trapped. Nothing is wasted. Molecules change roles, locations, meanings. The dance continues because it is allowed to flow. As sleep draws closer, you imagine yourself becoming lighter, like a molecule drifting through a system larger than understanding. You are part of this slow exchange, this careful timing, this trust that small movements accumulate into life. Water rises. Air drifts. Energy guides. And in their meeting, something stable emerges, not loud or sudden, but enduring. You remain with the leaf as the dance continues, slow and unannounced. Light has arrived, water has yielded, air has offered its carbon, and now something new begins to form. It does not appear suddenly. It assembles itself step by step, like a thought taking shape during a dream. Inside the leaf, energy is being folded into matter. This is not creation from nothing. It is rearrangement, careful and deliberate. Carbon atoms, once drifting freely in the air, are guided into place, linked together into longer chains. These chains become sugar, simple at first, then more complex, sturdy enough to hold memory. You imagine this sugar not as sweetness on a tongue, but as quiet storage. It is light, saved gently for later. Each bond holds a trace of the sun, captured without force. The plant does not burn the light. It preserves it. This process happens in stages, guided by enzymes that act like calm hands. Each step prepares the way for the next. If one moment falters, the system waits. Nothing collapses. Nothing panics. There is time built into the design. Sugar, you realize, is not excess. It is preparation. It allows the plant to grow when light fades, to survive the night, to build roots, stems, and seeds. It is energy given a shape that can be carried, shared, or stored. You think of sugar differently now. Not as something to crave or avoid, but as a universal language of energy. Plants speak it fluently. Animals, including you, have learned to listen. When you eat, you are receiving rearranged sunlight, passed along patiently through living systems. Inside the leaf, the first sugars are small, simple, easily moved. Some are used immediately, fueling the plant's own needs. Others are stitched together into longer forms, becoming starch, thick and stable, tucked away like supplies in a quiet pantry. You sense how thoughtful this is. Immediate needs are met, but the future is not ignored. Balance again. Use and save. Spend and store. Life repeats this pattern everywhere. The sugar does not remain in the leaf unless it is needed there. It travels through the plant, moving along hidden pathways, reaching roots buried in darkness, stems reaching upward, fruits forming slowly. Light is redistributed, shared with parts that never see the sun. You find comfort in this idea. Not every part of a system must experience brightness directly to benefit from it. Some nourishment arrives second-hand, softened by distance and time. As sugar moves, it becomes more than fuel. It becomes structure. Cell walls thicken. Fibers strengthen. Growth takes shape. What began as light becomes form you can touch, climb, lean against. Trees stand because of sugar. Grasses bend because of sugar. Your own bones carry the legacy of sugars transformed and repurposed across generations of life. The plant does not rush this transformation. Growth is measured, responsive to conditions. In times of abundance, more sugar is made. In scarcity, reserves are used carefully. The plant does not assume tomorrow will be generous, but it trusts the patterns enough to prepare. You imagine night falling. Light fades. Photosynthesis slows, then pauses. But the plant does not starve. Sugar steps in, releasing energy slowly, sustaining cellular work in the dark. Memory becomes motion. This stored light fuels repair, transport, quiet building. Life continues even when the source is absent. This feels deeply reassuring. The world does not stop when brightness leaves. As you lie still, you recognize this pattern in yourself. You store energy as rest. You store comfort as memory. When challenges arrive, you draw from what has already been gathered. Sugar is often misunderstood because it is familiar. But here, in the leaf, it is profound. It represents the bridge between moment and continuity, between arrival and endurance. The chemistry behind this process is intricate, but its meaning is simple. Energy must be made usable. Light must be slowed down, softened, shaped into something that can last. The plant does not cling to sugar either. It is meant to move, to change, to be consumed and rebuilt. Holding too tightly would halt the cycle. Release is part of use. You think of animals grazing, insects feeding, humans harvesting. Sugar moves again, entering new bodies, new systems. Light becomes muscle, warmth, thought. The exchange continues. Even decay returns sugar's components to the soil, where future plants will find them. Nothing is final. Nothing is wasted. The sweetness is temporary, but the cycle is not. As your breathing evens out, you sense how this knowledge settles you. Nourishment does not need urgency. It accumulates quietly, supports gently, and releases when needed. The leaf does not celebrate its sugar. It simply holds it, knowing its time will come. There is patience here, and trust in the unfolding. You imagine countless sugars forming across the planet at this very moment, invisible, silent, sustaining forests, fields, and the web of life resting under night skies. Light has been transformed, not into brilliance, but into stability. Into something that waits. You rest with that image, feeling supported by stored warmth, by systems that planned without planning, prepared without worry. And as sugar settles into place, you sense the process slowing again, approaching its natural limits, guided not by desire, but by conditions that quietly decide how far growth can go. You stay with the leaf as its work continues, but something feels different now. The urgency you might expect never arrives. There is no push to make more sugar than needed, no frantic effort to capture every last ray of light. Instead, you sense restraint. A quiet understanding that there are limits, and that honoring them keeps the system alive. Photosynthesis, you realize, does not chase perfection. It responds to conditions. When light is strong, it works steadily. When light fades, it slows. When water is scarce, it adapts. The leaf does not struggle against these changes. It adjusts, conserving energy rather than wasting it. Temperature matters too. Warmth helps reactions move smoothly, but too much heat causes stress. Enzymes lose their shape. Structures falter. So the leaf operates within a comfortable range, never demanding extremes. Balance protects the process. You imagine the leaf as a quiet worker who knows when to rest. It does not measure success by speed. It measures success by continuity. Surviving today matters more than growing quickly tomorrow. This slowness is not inefficiency. It is safety. Chemical reactions release energy, and energy must be handled carefully. Too much at once can damage delicate structures. By moving slowly, photosynthesis avoids harm. Energy is released in manageable steps, like a steady stream rather than a flood. You feel how different this is from human systems that prize acceleration. Faster growth. Faster production. Faster results. Here, speed is not admired. Stability is. The leaf has no awareness of deadlines. It does not calculate yield. It simply works within the boundaries set by light, water, air, and temperature. These limits are not obstacles. They are guides. Water availability sets one boundary. Without enough moisture, the leaf closes its openings to prevent loss. Carbon dioxide entry slows. Photosynthesis pauses. This is not failure. It is protection. Losing water would threaten the entire plant. Light intensity sets another boundary. Beyond a certain point, more light does not mean more productivity. Excess energy becomes dangerous. Plants have ways to release or redirect it safely, preventing damage. Again, restraint appears. Even carbon dioxide, so essential to sugar formation, can become limiting or excessive. The leaf balances its intake, adjusting moment by moment. Nothing is assumed to be constant. You begin to see that photosynthesis is governed by thresholds, not ambitions. It does not aim for maximum output. It aims for sustainable operation. This approach feels deeply calming. It suggests that growth does not need urgency to be meaningful. That limits are not signs of weakness, but of intelligence shaped by time. The leaf's limits are the result of evolution, shaped by countless trials across millions of years. Systems that pushed too hard failed. Systems that balanced survived. What remains is wisdom encoded in chemistry. You notice how these limits ripple outward. Because photosynthesis is slow and steady, ecosystems develop rhythms. Day and night cycles matter. Seasons matter. Life learns to move with these patterns rather than against them. Animals time their behavior around plant productivity. So do humans, whether they notice or not. Harvests depend on patience. So does nourishment. You feel how comforting it is to exist within a world that is not racing itself toward exhaustion. Even when humans hurry, the green world continues at its own pace, quietly anchoring the planet. The leaf does not resent its limits. It does not imagine alternatives. It simply operates where it can, trusting that enough is enough. As you lie still, you reflect on your own limits. Your body grows tired. Your attention fades. These are not failures. They are signals. Boundaries that protect you from harm. Sleep itself is a limit. A pause enforced not by weakness, but by necessity. Without it, systems break down. With it, repair becomes possible. Photosynthesis pauses at night. Light is absent. But the plant does not panic. Sugar reserves support continued life. Growth waits. Repair continues. Morning will return. This trust in cycles feels essential. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is rushed. Everything arrives when conditions allow. You imagine leaves resting under moonlight, quiet and still. Their work slowed, but not stopped. Even inactivity has purpose. Nature does not separate rest from productivity. Both are parts of the same process. Limits create space for recovery, for adaptation, for long-term survival. As your breathing deepens, you allow this lesson to settle. You do not need to hurry. Not tonight. Not now. Systems that last learn when to pause. The leaf remains open to tomorrow's light, but it does not demand it. It waits, confident in patterns older than memory. In this waiting, there is wisdom. In this slowness, there is strength. You rest with the idea that life thrives not by pushing endlessly forward, but by listening carefully to its own boundaries, honoring them, and continuing gently within them. You remain with the leaf in its quiet rhythm when something new arrives, not as interruption, but as attention. Human curiosity steps softly into the garden. It does not trample. It pauses, watches, waits. You feel this curiosity as a gentle leaning forward, a desire to understand without breaking what is already whole. For most of human history, photosynthesis happens without a name. Leaves grow. Crops rise. Forests breathe. People sense a connection but cannot yet trace its shape. Still, the questions are there, resting just beneath the surface, like seeds waiting for the right season. You imagine early observers standing beneath trees, noticing patterns. Plants grow toward light. Shade slows them. Water matters. Seasons matter. These observations do not come from laboratories, but from patience. From watching the same fields year after year. Curiosity begins as noticing. Over time, this noticing becomes more focused. Humans begin to wonder what plants are actually made of. They weigh soil before and after growth and discover something unexpected. The mass of the plant does not come from the ground alone. Something unseen must be contributing. Air enters the story quietly. Invisible, easy to ignore, yet essential. You sense the surprise when people begin to realize that gases matter. That what cannot be seen can still shape life. This realization changes how humans look at the world. Experiments begin, simple and careful. Leaves are covered. Light is blocked. Growth slows. Light is restored. Growth resumes. Cause and effect becomes clearer, though the mechanisms remain hidden. Curiosity sharpens, but it does not yet rush ahead of understanding. You feel how respectful this phase is. Questions are asked gently. Nature is not forced to answer faster than it can. Each discovery opens space for another question rather than closing the case. As tools improve, humans learn to measure what once felt immeasurable. They track gases entering and leaving leaves. They notice oxygen being released. They begin to connect this process to breathing, to fire, to life itself. A quiet realization dawns: plants and animals are partners in an exchange older than humanity. Photosynthesis slowly takes shape as a concept, though its inner workings remain mysterious. The idea that light can become matter feels almost impossible at first. And yet, evidence accumulates. Patterns repeat. Curiosity deepens. You imagine scientists not as conquerors of nature, but as listeners, leaning close, trying not to disturb the rhythm they are studying. Many of them spend hours watching color changes, measuring tiny shifts, repeating experiments to be sure what they see is real. Mistakes happen. Assumptions are corrected. Curiosity matures. It becomes more precise, more humble. Each wrong turn teaches something valuable. Understanding grows not in leaps, but in careful steps. You notice how human curiosity mirrors photosynthesis itself. It works best within limits. Too much force distorts results. Too much haste obscures meaning. Patience becomes a tool as important as any instrument. As chemistry advances, humans begin to identify the molecules involved. Chlorophyll is named. Reactions are traced. Pathways are mapped. Yet even as diagrams form, the process retains its elegance. Complexity does not erase wonder. You sense the excitement of realization when scientists understand that oxygen released by plants comes from water, not carbon dioxide. This small correction reshapes entire models. Curiosity rewards careful attention. Throughout this exploration, plants continue their work unchanged. Leaves do not respond to observation. They do not alter their rhythm for human understanding. This steadiness becomes a reference point, a reminder that nature does not perform for an audience. You feel how grounding this is. Human curiosity must adapt to nature's pace, not the other way around. Understanding arrives only when observation aligns with patience. Over time, curiosity becomes applied. People wonder how this process supports agriculture, how it feeds populations, how it stabilizes climates. But at its heart, curiosity remains simple. How does light become life? You imagine a scientist holding a leaf, not with ownership, but with gratitude. This small structure holds answers to questions vast enough to shape civilizations. As sleep draws closer, you sense that curiosity does not disturb rest. It accompanies it. Questions do not demand answers tonight. They simply rest beside you, open and gentle. Human curiosity, at its best, does not rush to improve or alter. It seeks first to understand, to listen, to honor what already works. The garden remains quiet. Leaves continue their slow exchanges. And humans, watching carefully, learn that understanding begins with humility. You feel this curiosity settle into you, not as restlessness, but as calm interest. A willingness to notice without needing to act. And as understanding deepens, another question begins to form, delicate and cautious, wondering not how to control photosynthesis, but whether it might be gently supported, without disturbing its ancient balance. You remain in the garden, still and attentive, as human curiosity shifts its posture. It no longer asks only how photosynthesis works. A new question forms, careful and hesitant. Could this ancient process be helped, just a little, without being hurried or harmed? The question does not arrive with ambition. It arrives with concern. More people walk the earth now. Fields stretch wider. Climate patterns change. And so curiosity wonders whether photosynthesis, already remarkable, might quietly do its work a bit more efficiently, using the same light, the same water, the same air. You sense the caution immediately. This is not about replacing nature. It is about listening even more closely. Scientists' approach leads the way one might approach a sleeping animal, aware that sudden movement could break trust. The first thing humans notice is that photosynthesis, for all its elegance, is not perfect. Some energy is lost as heat. Some reactions move slower than they might. Certain enzymes hesitate, pausing longer than necessary. These are not flaws, but compromises shaped by ancient conditions. You imagine enzymes as careful workers, shaped long ago to survive fluctuating environments. They favor safety over speed. Under modern conditions, with stable crops and controlled fields, these same enzymes sometimes limit how fast sugar can be made. Scientists wonder if these enzymes could be gently adjusted, not replaced, but refined. A slight change in shape. A small increase in efficiency. Enough to help, not enough to overwhelm. One area of attention is an enzyme that occasionally makes mistakes, binding to the wrong molecule and wasting energy. This happens quietly, frequently, and plants have learned to tolerate it. But tolerance is not the same as optimization. You sense the delicacy here. Changing one step affects many others. Photosynthesis is not a line, but a web. Tugging on one strand sends ripples through the whole system. So changes are tested slowly, carefully, often over years. Another approach looks at light itself. Leaves evolved under sunlight filtered through ancient atmospheres, ancient forests. Modern fields receive light differently. Some wavelengths arrive in excess, others are underused. Could leaves be encouraged to listen to a slightly broader range? Researchers experiment with adjusting light harvesting pathways, allowing energy to be shared more evenly across chlorophyll networks. The goal is not more light, but smoother flow. Less crowding. Less waste. You notice the language scientists use. They speak of balance, of redistribution, of efficiency without stress. Even in laboratories, the tone remains respectful. No one wants to break what feeds the world. Some plants already hint at possibilities. Certain species perform photosynthesis in ways that conserve water more effectively. Others thrive in heat. By studying these natural variations, humans learn what is already possible without invention. This borrowing feels different from invention. It is more like translation, taking strategies that already exist in one context and offering them gently to another. You imagine fields where plants use water more carefully, losing less to evaporation, closing their pores just enough to protect themselves without starving their inner processes. These changes are subtle, almost invisible, yet meaningful. Still, every improvement carries responsibility. Faster photosynthesis could demand more nutrients from soil. It could alter ecosystems. Nothing improves in isolation. You feel the weight of this awareness. That is why much of this research moves slowly, deliberately. Field trials are small. Results are watched across seasons. Success is not measured only in yield, but in resilience, in long-term stability. You sense a quiet humility guiding this work. Humans recognize that photosynthesis shaped the atmosphere, the climate, the food web. It deserves patience. Artificial environments offer another path. Some experiments take place outside the leaf entirely, building systems inspired by photosynthesis rather than altering it. But even here, nature remains the teacher, not the target. Throughout this exploration, one principle repeats. Do no harm. Help only where invited. Improve without accelerating beyond safety. You rest with this idea, feeling how different it is from urgency. Progress does not demand speed. It demands care. You imagine future plants growing calmly, doing slightly more with the same sunlight, easing pressure on land and water. Not miracles. Just gentle assistance. But you also imagine restraint. Knowing when not to intervene. Accepting that some limits protect deeper balances. As sleep draws closer, the question softens. Can photosynthesis be improved? Perhaps. But the deeper lesson feels clearer. Improvement must feel like cooperation, not control. You breathe in, aware that tonight's oxygen still comes from unaltered leaves, working as they always have. That continuity feels comforting. The garden remains quiet. Research continues elsewhere, careful and patient. And you sense that whatever changes come, they will arrive slowly, tested by time rather than enthusiasm. You allow the question to remain open, unresolved, resting beside you rather than pressing forward. You move gently away from the garden now, without leaving it behind. The leaves remain where they are, steady and green, continuing their ancient work. But nearby, in quiet laboratories and sunlit test fields, humans are attempting something new, not to change the leaf, but to learn from it. This curiosity feels different. It is not focused on improving plants themselves. Instead, it asks whether the logic of photosynthesis might be borrowed, translated into materials shaped by human hands. Not copied exactly, but echoed. Not replacing nature, but standing alongside it. You imagine an artificial leaf resting under the sun. It does not grow. It does not breathe. Yet it listens, in its own way, for light. Panels and surfaces are arranged to catch sunlight gently, without glare or heat. The goal is not brightness, but capture. In these systems, light is treated the same way plants treat it, as a resource to be guided, not burned. Energy is absorbed and directed into chemical pathways, where it can be stored for later use. Sunlight becomes fuel without flame. This idea feels quietly revolutionary. For most of human history, stored energy has come from ancient sunlight, coal, oil, gas locked away over millions of years. Artificial photosynthesis imagines storing today's sunlight for tomorrow, without smoke, without exhaustion. You sense how carefully this work proceeds. Scientists study how chlorophyll moves energy so efficiently, how it avoids waste and damage. They look not for shortcuts, but for principles. How does nature prevent overload? How does it move energy smoothly across complex systems? Some artificial leaves use metals instead of molecules, semiconductors instead of chlorophyll. Others use catalysts that encourage chemical reactions without being consumed. The materials differ, but the intention remains the same: slow sunlight down, shape it, make it usable. You feel the humility here. No one claims these systems are better than plants. They are inspired by them, guided by their logic. Nature remains the standard, not the competitor. In some designs, sunlight is used to split water, releasing hydrogen that can later be burned cleanly, producing only water again. The cycle feels familiar. Borrowed. Respectful. In others, carbon dioxide is captured from the air and combined with hydrogen to form fuels, closing loops rather than opening wounds. Carbon returns to circulation instead of accumulating. You notice how often the word gentle applies. Gentle capture, gentle storage, gentle release. Artificial photosynthesis works best when it imitates the calm pacing of the leaf. These systems are still fragile. They degrade. They struggle with efficiency. They require careful conditions. But so did early leaves, long ago, before refinement through time. You imagine this work not as competition with forests and fields, but as support. If humans can store some sunlight themselves, pressure on land may ease. Forests may rest. Fields may diversify. Balance may return, slowly. The boundary between natural and human-made begins to soften. Artificial leaves sit quietly in sunlight, not claiming to be alive, but behaving respectfully within living systems. They do not demand attention. They do not roar. You sense how important this restraint is. Technology that imitates nature must also imitate its patience. Rushing risks breaking the harmony it hopes to support. As sleep draws closer, you feel the comfort of this idea. Humans learning not to dominate, but to observe, to reflect, to borrow carefully. Progress shaped by listening rather than force. Artificial photosynthesis does not end the story of the leaf. It adds a quiet footnote, written in materials and light, suggesting cooperation rather than replacement. The sun continues to rise and set. Leaves continue to work. And nearby, human-made surfaces learn, slowly, how to hold sunlight without harm. You rest with this image, a world where energy arrives gently, is stored calmly, and released only when needed. A world where borrowed sunlight reduces urgency rather than increasing it. The future does not arrive loudly here. It arrives the way light always has, patiently, freely, waiting to be received. You lift your awareness from a single leaf to the gentle rhythm of entire landscapes. Forests breathe together. Fields sway in synchrony. And somewhere within this vast network, human needs stir quietly alongside the green pulse. The world grows, populations expand, and with growth comes the question, how can life thrive without overwhelming the delicate systems that have supported it for millennia? You feel the weight of this question without urgency. It is not a problem to solve tonight. It is a pattern to observe, like the slow rise of the tide. Each leaf carries a piece of the answer, each photon a tiny contributor, each molecule a reminder that abundance can coexist with patience. Photosynthesis itself is the first teacher. It reminds you that energy can be captured gently, stored without excess, and shared widely. If plants can work this way, might humans learn to structure food systems similarly efficiently, softly, without forcing growth beyond what the earth can sustain? You imagine a rice field bathed in morning light, water rising calmly through roots, carbon drawn in without waste. Each stalk converts sunlight into sugar, building nourishment not only for itself but for the creatures and people nearby. No machines push the process. No chemicals rush it. Nature sets the pace, and humans observe, intervening only with care. Small changes in photosynthesis, whether through selective breeding, careful engineering, or better light management, could make this process more productive without taking more space. A field could feed more without needing additional land. Forests could remain intact, continuing to anchor soil, store water, and house life, rather than being cleared for expansion. You sense the subtlety of this possibility. It is not a miracle. It is a careful orchestration, informed by centuries of observation, guided by principles older than human ambition. Efficiency is not speed. It is alignment, arranging systems so that energy is fully used, waste is minimized, and growth occurs in rhythm with conditions. Imagine farmers walking fields that thrive with less intervention. Leaves do not strain. Roots do not overextend. Water is sufficient, but not squandered. Photosynthesis has been nudged gently, yet the ecosystem remains whole. You feel the calm of this vision, the balance between provision and preservation. Even beyond food, photosynthesis reminds you of sustainability. Trees that grow efficiently store carbon. Plants that thrive in varied climates reduce the need for artificial inputs. Sunlight captured and converted into sugars, then shared through ecosystems, creates a natural harmony, one that humans can participate in, rather than dominate. You notice your own breath aligning with this awareness. Each inhale carries oxygen once shaped by sunlight, each exhale contributes carbon that plants will recycle. You are part of the system. Your presence does not require excess. It exists within natural limits, supported by careful cycles of energy and matter. Global agriculture often works differently. Land is cleared. Rivers are diverted. Soil is strained. But the leaf whispers a quieter approach. Work within limits, improve gently, and respect cycles. It is possible to feed millions while leaving room for forests, rivers, and wildlife. Efficiency can reduce pressure without forcing speed. The imagination expands. What if sunlight could be captured more effectively, water distributed without waste, crops designed to grow with resilience rather than rapidity? The planet could provide sustenance without shaking the foundations of ecosystems. Life could spread its abundance softly, as energy itself does in a leaf. Yet there is humility in this thought. Human plans are fallible. Conditions change. Climate shifts, storms arrive, droughts appear. Nature is not a predictable machine. Respecting uncertainty becomes part of any strategy. Interventions must be reversible, small, attentive, adaptive. You sense responsibility here, but it is not heavy. It is a quiet companionship with the planet. The lesson is clear: do not push. Do not take more than needed. Help only where the system permits. Listen as carefully as the leaf does, observing cycles, patterns, and thresholds. You imagine communities working in this rhythm. Crops rotated to preserve soil. Water applied with precision. Sunlight captured efficiently. Harvests sufficient, but not greedy. Populations nourished. Wildlife preserved. A soft equilibrium is possible, and it is beautiful. Even as you consider these solutions, you remember the ancient pace of leaves. Photosynthesis does not hurry. Sugar forms step by step. Growth unfolds slowly, yet continuously. These small, steady changes create profound impact over time. Human intervention could mimic this patience. You think about seeds, carried across fields and markets. Each one holds sunlight in its form. Each one carries energy through human hands into kitchens and meals. The same process repeats countless times a day, a quiet chain of life sustained by gentle efficiency. This continuity brings reassurance. Nothing must be done all at once. Improvement arrives incrementally, with observation, testing, and care. Too much haste risks collapse. Measured guidance ensures endurance. You notice that this vision extends beyond agriculture. Urban planning, energy management, water use, even human diets could reflect the rhythm of leaves, slow, attentive, aligned with natural flows. The leaf teaches that abundance and restraint can coexist. Your attention returns to the small garden where you began. Leaves still sway in sunlight, water moving slowly through roots, air drifting without urgency. Each molecule fulfills its role. Each process follows its own pace. You feel that the same principles can guide human systems, small steps taken with care, yielding long-term balance. Feeding the world does not require rushing. It requires observation, patience, and respect. Energy and matter, guided thoughtfully, can support life without depleting it. Responsibility becomes a form of presence, not pressure. You breathe deeply, noticing the calm of this alignment. Nature continues, humans learn, and the world carries on, sustained by the same cycles that began long before human hands existed. The thought settles like a soft weight in your mind: abundance is possible without excess. Growth is possible without force. Life can be nurtured without disruption. And in this, you find a kind of peace. You close your eyes and listen to your breath. Inhale. Exhale. Each cycle feels ordinary, yet suddenly extraordinary. Every molecule of oxygen you draw in has a history stretching back millions of years, shaped first by sunlight, captured by leaves, folded into sugar, released into the atmosphere, and eventually carried to you. Your body, unknowingly, has been participating in this ancient partnership all along. You imagine leaves gently swaying in fields, forests, and gardens, releasing oxygen steadily, not in haste, not in show, but as part of the quiet rhythm of life. Each exhale you release contains carbon that, somewhere else, will be used again by another leaf, completing a cycle older than civilization itself. You are part of this dance, a quiet participant in a vast system. The thought brings a deep sense of connection. Your inhalation is not solitary. It is linked to chloroplasts working under the sun, to water moving through roots, to carbon drifting silently through the air. The green world is breathing with you. It supports you without expectation, without demand. It is generous in the calmest, most essential way. You notice the subtle beauty in this exchange. Leaves do not ask for recognition. Oxygen is given freely, carbon is accepted without complaint. They do not hurry, yet their work sustains countless lives. You feel a kinship with this patience. It mirrors your own need to rest, to repair, to prepare for tomorrow. This realization expands beyond your lungs. You think of every plant, every tree, every blade of grass. Each contributes to the air you share. Each participates in photosynthesis, a process that folds sunlight into matter and matter into breathable air. It is a silent conversation, occurring all around you, yet often unnoticed. You imagine walking through a forest at twilight. Your breath mingles with the oxygen of countless leaves, your carbon feeding countless others. You feel neither separate nor overwhelmed, only connected. The world is alive in an ongoing dialogue, and you are part of it. You realize that this partnership is not transactional. There is no debt, no ledger. Nature does not record your consumption. It simply continues its rhythm, and you, in turn, continue yours. Mutual support exists quietly, through cycles and flows, through inhalation and exhalation, through photosynthesis and respiration. You dwell on the continuity of this system. Ancient leaves, modern forests, city parks, houseplants, all contributing in subtle, consistent ways. The same cycles that fed your ancestors now feed you. The oxygen you inhale may have passed through leaves before the first humans walked the earth. You are, in a sense, sharing a breath with all who came before you, and all who will follow. It is a comforting thought. Responsibility feels natural rather than heavy. You do not need to control this exchange. You only need to participate consciously, to respect the rhythm and honor the quiet work around you. Even as humans build, innovate, and intervene, these green partners continue their ancient task, offering stability in a world of change. You imagine your body relaxing further with each breath. The oxygen sustains, the carbon returns, the cycle persists. You begin to notice that your own patience and care can mirror this natural rhythm, a steady pace, gentle actions, and trust in continuity rather than urgency. The leaves, in their quiet competence, teach you about timing. Growth, repair, energy all occur without rush. The world around you operates similarly, whether in human systems or ecological cycles. Nothing is forced. Nothing is hurried. Everything continues in harmony when attention and respect are applied. You sense the intimacy in this understanding. To breathe is to participate in something larger than yourself. To inhale is to receive generosity. To exhale is to give back. This gives ordinary breathing a sacred quality. Each act of respiration becomes a meditation, a reminder of the delicate balance of life. You feel a soft gratitude for this invisible network. You recognize that the care humans take in observing, understanding, and sometimes gently aiding photosynthesis is mirrored in your own small contributions. Watering plants, tending gardens, minimizing waste, simply noticing leaves, these actions honor the green breath. The rhythm of your breathing begins to synchronize with the imagined rhythm of the leaves outside your window. Inhale. Exhale. Green breath, human breath, ancient cycle. A calm repetition, reassuring, steady, enduring. You feel connected to every leaf performing photosynthesis, to every tree standing in sunlight, to every meadow, forest, and garden breathing alongside you. Your mind drifts toward reflection. The partnership between you and photosynthesis is ongoing. It has no definitive beginning or end. You are part of a story written over eons, still unfolding with each moment. The green world supports you, and in return, your awareness can honor, protect, and participate consciously in that cycle. You imagine sharing this knowledge softly, like a whisper, with others. Not as instruction, but as gentle awareness. The realization that every breath is a gift shaped by leaves, light, water, and carbon, this understanding transforms daily life, making ordinary actions feel more intentional, more rooted in presence. Even the smallest plant near your home participates in this conversation. The oxygen it produces, the carbon it receives, the water it draws all contribute to your existence. You feel a quiet solidarity with this work, and it calms your thoughts. Life is not solitary, it is entwined in subtle, essential exchanges. And as you dwell in this meditation, you sense the continuity of curiosity, human care, and natural cycles. You are linked not only to leaves but to the scientists who have learned to watch them, to researchers exploring gentle improvements, to inventors building artificial leaves, all part of a tapestry woven from observation, respect, and patience. This awareness allows your mind to slow. You do not need to chase understanding or achievement tonight. You can rest, breathing alongside the green world, supported by systems older than memory, by energy captured long ago and stored patiently within sugar, water, and carbon. You feel the profound quiet of this network. Life does not demand your control. It only asks your presence. You inhale, exhale, and sense the ongoing conversation between human and leaf, between light and matter, between past and future. You remain in the garden, but the day is ending. Sunlight softens, sliding slowly beneath the horizon, brushing the leaves with its last gentle warmth. Shadows lengthen, and the air cools. There is a pause. A natural hush that drapes itself over fields, forests, and gardens. The world exhales alongside you. Leaves, once bathed in light, now hold the energy they have gathered throughout the day. Sugar is tucked away within cells, stored carefully in roots, stems, and fruits. Each photon absorbed has been folded into matter, preserved for later use. You sense the quiet, deliberate patience in this process. No rush. No urgency. Only trust. Water moves more slowly now. Air drifts gently through the canopy, carrying carbon that will be drawn in again tomorrow. Photosynthesis rests. The chemical machinery pauses, not from exhaustion, but because it knows when to stop. Boundaries, cycles, and rhythms guide every movement. Everything in its time. You breathe with this rhythm, slow and even. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. The connection between you and the green world feels alive yet invisible. You recognize that the work of the day, the capturing of light, the building of sugar, the release of oxygen, does not end with sunlight. It continues, quietly, through storage, transformation, and preparation. Rest is part of the process. There is comfort here. The leaves do not need your attention. They do not seek correction. They rest naturally, trusting that tomorrow's light will arrive and that their stored energy will serve the plant's needs. You feel a similar invitation to trust your own cycles, to allow pause without worry, to recognize that rest is productive in its own quiet way. As darkness deepens, you imagine forests filled with countless leaves, each one holding fragments of sunlight. The energy is not wasted. It waits, patiently, as though time itself has slowed to accommodate it. You sense the elegance in this restraint. The planet does not rush. Life thrives in quiet, steady accumulation. You reflect on the entirety of photosynthesis, from the first photons touching a leaf to the sugars that feed roots, insects, animals, and humans alike. Each step is intentional, gentle, and interconnected. Energy flows, transforms, and rests. You feel gratitude for this patient, resilient system, aware that it has persisted through eons of change. Human curiosity and effort have added a layer to this narrative. Scientists watch, learn, and sometimes assist gently. Artificial leaves echo the patterns discovered in nature. Careful improvements are tested slowly. Yet even as humans explore and invent, the underlying rhythm of the green world continues, unshaken and wise. You notice how much of life depends on this trust in cycles. One day ends. Another will begin. Sunlight comes and goes. Leaves absorb, store, release. Breaths are drawn, carbon cycles, oxygen flows. Each moment has its purpose. There is no need to force more. The system thrives in its own timing. You let your mind wander to the night itself. Stars appear as silent witnesses to the day's work. The moon casts gentle light, yet does not compete with the stored energy in leaves. The planet hums softly in darkness, every system still moving, still sustaining, even without immediate illumination. In this pause, you feel connected not only to the present but to the continuum of life across generations. Your own breath, your own heartbeats, are part of the same cycle that sustained ancestors and will sustain those who come after. Energy is not lost, it is transformed, stored, and shared. Life is continuous, patient, and deliberate. You reflect on what has been learned. Curiosity and care can guide interventions, but they must honor nature's pace. Efficiency can coexist with patience. Innovation can support, not dominate. There is wisdom in restraint and strength in waiting. As you lie still, you imagine every leaf, every tree, every blade of grass resting in the night. Each has done its work. Each trusts the cycles that have guided life for millennia. And in this trust, you feel your own rest becoming natural. Your thoughts slow. Your body relaxes. Your mind lets go of the day's urgencies. Gratitude surfaces, grateful for sunlight, for leaves, for air that carries the quiet work of plants into every breath. Grateful for the patience of nature, which teaches without lecturing, nurtures without demanding, and sustains without fatigue. You feel cradled by the green rhythm of the world, supported invisibly but unmistakably. Tomorrow, sunlight will return. Leaves will awaken. Photosynthesis will resume. The cycle continues, as it always has. But tonight, nothing more needs doing. The light is stored, the sugars are safe, and the world rests. You, too, are allowed to rest. You allow a final thought to linger gently. Perhaps improvement is not always necessary. Perhaps what matters is observation, respect, and the quiet willingness to participate without rushing. The leaves have done their work patiently for millions of years. And in resting, you align with that same wisdom. Even as night deepens, you feel hope not as urgency, but as a quiet confidence in tomorrow's light. The energy that has been captured will continue to flow, supporting life in ways both visible and invisible. You are part of that flow, and so is everyone else who breathes in its legacy. And so you close your eyes, letting the day and the light rest, trusting that tomorrow's sunlight, captured and shared with care, will arrive again, ready to sustain life gently, quietly, and endlessly.